diluted into the water. Before I start my painting, I add a spray of water on my paint, so they're fresh. And now I'm going to use light blue color or cerulean. Add a drop of water into that because the first layer, most of the time, it's better to be watery. And the last layer or second and third layer, it's better to be dry more. And the reason is because we are not using any white color in watercolor, because the white can make your paint, make your color a little muddy. Because of that, most of the artists not prefer to use that. And even the black color, we are not using a lot. We just make it dark by brown and dark blue. So more colorful, actually. And this is the light blue color for the stance. And a little bit sunny, we need to, because this part, it's more yellowy here. A little feeling of yellow we see here. So for that, I need to apply with the yellow, but be careful because blue and yellow can make the green color. So we need to be really careful. So on the other part of the palette, I'm going to add a little yellow, warm yellow. It can be permanent or cat yellow. These two colors, it's good for the stance. The green color on the stance a little bit warm, so I can use my sap green, or if you have hooker green, that would be okay too. But it's not very dark. I can add a little brown, reddish brown to make it warmer. And even yellow ochre to make it lighter. I think this is a good color now. Then I'm going to wet exactly the surface of the right side that I would like to add this paint here. Not the other part, just here beside my cardinal, the right side. And then I'm going to make paper wet half part. And as I mentioned, the yellow, it's a lighter part. And then I start with this because I don't want to make the yellow greeny. So add a stroke very gently close to the cardinal. And a little bit bring it down. Just like that. It's wet, so it can spread a little bit around. Would be fine. Clean the brush with water, napkin. Then move on into the blue, light blue color. Start from the top part. Add a nice stroke, very light and loose. Here, move on a little bit toward the left side. Even if you go through the branch, would be okay. Not much into the yellow because I mentioned it makes the green color. We don't want to have a green in the sky. Leave it like this. And I'm not let it dry because I would like to use it so smoothly here. I'm going to add my green color. And adding some stroke on this section. It's on the stand, so it should be really light. Because of that, I wet the paper first. And interested to have light value. And then move on into the blue a little bit, comes up, let it wet and move into the blue color of sky. So I'm okay so far. Not add more. I see here should be a little darker, but we can let it dry a little bit. It's so watery. So a little up here and then move down here. We can add another layer on top of the wet surface, which is better. And it's go to the background. So, but we don't need to add any water. We already have a watery base here and it takes time to get dry. I don't need to wet the paper because already my brush is wet, really watery. And I'm not going close to this part because it's still wet. It can move into the blue I don't want. And I keep the space a little white to show the snow on top. And so light, I'm adding a little brush stroke with the blue color. Make sure not to touch the cardinal tail. So light, come close to this part. You can come close to the cardinal body on the bottom part, but make sure not to touch the tail. And add a blue tone here. A little bit of space as a white in between. We have different technique in watercolor to keep the paper white. We keep the paper white like that. Don't touch anything. Don't touch that part of the paper. And we use this part as a white. Or we use gouache as an acrylic on top. After you finish with the watercolor, like the snow, we will do it by acrylic at the end. We spread some snow on top later. And the other thing is masking fluid, which is a glue that you can use and keep the paper white. We don't need that one right now. We just add a little glue here and then move to the brown, dark brown, like Van Dyke or burnt umber. A little bit here, less water. I don't need lots of water into that. And a tiny bit of blue, make a little grayish. Just one stroke here I need to add on top by colorful paint, like brown, blue, and dark green. It's already dark and very nice. And if you would like to have dark color, you need to add very, very less water, more pigment. If you would like to have light color, you need to add more water. So we just play with the amount of water to make the color light and dark. So we keep it aside. A little bit dilute your brush into that. Very gently add some stroke randomly with hold the brush, not with the tip. This is hold the brush, so you can lay down your brush like that. This is tip of the brush, so you can draw the line like this. I mean that hold the brush, please dilute it into the blue and very gently lay down on a paper. Even if this part is wet, it's dry completely, you can move a little bit on that and shape it like this. Very less, not much. Come inside the left part and then you can move on into the green. Green is this one, the lighter one, I mean. And come close and be gently close to the cardinal. You see, when you use less water, your color is so dark. This is exactly hooker green that we use for this section. I just play a little bit with the tip and then I'm not going to hide the yellow and the blue. I would like to keep those. And on the top part again, adding some stroke, lay down my brush into the blue. You can back to the blue again. Bring it close to branch. Cover it. And then back to green again. You see my brush is not dry, but it's not really wet and runny. Something in between. And then I'm going close to the edges. It's not so dark and it's not really light like that. Again, like mid-tone color. Because I need to come a little darker on top and add the shape of leaves. So leave it like that. Even when it's wet, you can move on with the darker tone. Because it's wet, it can blend together very well. So add some stroke with the darker tone that you already make. like this, a little bit, not everywhere, just randomly add some brush stroke with really dark color. This is for shadow part and the bottom part of the branch, which is so dark. And for light part, clean the brush. I'm going to add reddish brown, burnt sienna. It's so nice to have this color. You can have a little more water and use this part. I'm going to use bigger brush, more easy for me, but if you prefer smaller one, you can go with smaller. I lay down whole the hair of brush on my branch. I cover whole the branch with this color, with the light tone. So don't be worried about the shadow part. Just cover whole the brush with, hold the branch. What's this one? Hold the branch with the light color. And please not let it dry. Move on with the dark, adding on the bottom of this branch. It's wet, it's already moving to the other part and make it a little blend. It's not get liney, just the bottom part. Even you can bring a little bit green into that, more interesting, because we have lots of green here. Just stroke with the green, not everywhere. Some part, even you can make it turn like curvy shape or branch, like that. And let it dry. And then I'm going to add the other part, clean the brush first, move it like so we have already dark green color like that, and it's not watery, it's not dry and it's not watery, it's good actually. If you want to control the water, just touch the napkin to control and use the tip of brush like this, not like that. Please not lay down. Straight. We need to draw the line. Just draw some line as the shape of the leaves of this tree. Spread, and then even we have here. Even some part, it's okay to bring the blue in between. I'm going to add randomly some line. If you see, I'm not really do the perfect line. I'm just randomly add some green line to make it busy, because it's exactly look like the real leaves of tree. It's not one by one and separate from each other. It's just randomly they cover each other. Even we can move on in the cobalt blue. A little bit draw brush, control it by napkin, because blue it's interesting to have in between. Even if you don't want to let it as a leaf, just add some stroke. Lay down here, add some darker tone with blue. Would be interesting. We just need the red color to have. It can be permanent red, cadmium red, red rose, any warm red you have would be a good option. Just add a drop of water into that and bring it here. Then again, we need to make the shadow for this red. Again, back to the pure red, clean it by water the brush. We need purple to bring. If you have purple, would be great. If not, you can use blue color. But with purple, we can make the red darker and make shadow for that. I'm not going to add much, light and dark. Then clean the brush very well. Cardinal is not much big, so it's small. We can use smaller brush. And first of all, I'm going to use pure red color. I diluted whole the hair of brush into the red and start to adding from top to the bottom. Cover whole the color cardinal with this red color. I'm not going to use any water into that. Just a little bit watery brush. I keep this part as a dark later and a little bit bring it up. The shape of cardinal head is like that. Bring it up. I'm going to color whole this part of the body, even the tail. After that, I'm not going to let it draw. Move on with the dark color and shadow. Just one stroke, it come here. Please not watery, really. It's better not really water-based. Enough water like that. It's not much. Even you can control it by napkin to reduce the amount of water. Because if you bring dark color and watery color on top of this red, it can make some watermark. And we are not want that. And adding some darker tone here. As a line, we can do on here because it's look like the shape of wing. And a little bit line on the tail. If it's not much dark, would be okay. I'm going to add later by smaller brush. A little bit on head. Control by napkin. Even on this section a little bit, and then let it draw. We don't work on that part. Move on with the smaller brush, so small. Take the purple and even red with draw brush this time. Even here is more watery. I need draw brush, so I control the amount of water by napkin to make the darker color. And I'm not going to let it draw at the line here right now. The reason I'm not going to let it draw is because I want to let the color blend together. I'm going to add a little bit red more, but it should be really less water this time. And with one stroke, I'm not going to add more and with the details, big shape of brush. And I have to wait everything be dry. With this water base, I'm just adding whole red color, be gently on one stroke, because if you go on back a lot, it can wash the first layer. I would like to have more darker tone, warm and dark. It's more warm. Yeah, that would be great. It's more reddish. I'm happy with this more. And that's enough, not more. And just adding some shadow here. For shadow, the same. I prefer to add heavy paint. Heavy paint means not much water, or maybe nothing. Just thick color and one stroke. I'm not recommend you do it same as me. I'm not happy with the color and wanted to show you how you can fix it. If you're okay with the color, please not work on top. We are ready to spread the snow on top. And as I mentioned, we can go with gouaches, white gouaches, or white acrylic. Both are fine. So I'm going to use my white color of acrylic. And if you have acrylic brush, it's better to use that one. And it's pointy. Same as a small brush we use for watercolor. And I take a little bit white here aside, add a lots of drop of water into that to make it runny. Dilute it, make it runny. It should show that it's look like watercolor, not creamy. Because of habit that acrylic has, acrylic is opaque paint and watercolor is transparent. So this opaque paint can sit on top of transparent paint like this. So after that, and you need to know that it's spread everywhere. So if you would like to have a clean around, make sure to put napkin or fabric or anything that's not damage the other surface. So take the other brush like that and just spread lots of snow on top. It's the fun part and it's so lovely. And you can add a drop of snow everywhere as much as you're interested. But as I mentioned, acrylic spread everywhere. If it was with watercolor, would be great because you can clean it after. Acrylic can stick and damage your surface, so be careful. It depends the amount of water, so you can easily add more snow on top. If you see that your brush is not spread a lots of snow on top, so bring more water and make it diluted into the water more.